waiting on Mr. Masur. There he is. For the record, both assistant state attorneys are present, both defense counsel and Mr. Sievers. Is the state ready to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense?
We are, Your Honor.
Okay. If they're ready, bring them out. Please be seated. I'll ask our jurors again, did you follow my instructions, not talk about the case among yourselves or with anybody else, or look up any of the people or places involved? Even if you did so inadvertently, now would be the time to raise your hand and let me know. For the record, no jurors lifted their hand. State.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a few brief questions. Detective Schuenemann, I just want to confirm what we saw in 33B was the residence of Curtis Wainwright and his wife.
Yes, ma'am.
And that was at 8894 Chapel Hill Court.
Yes, ma'am.
And what we saw in 56A and the subsequent pictures, that was at 650 Old Highway 41, Apartment I, that was the condo owned by Mark Sievers.
Yes, ma'am.
And in State's Exhibit 35A and 35B, that was the 10154 West Briar Drive in Cadet, Missouri, the residence of Jimmy Ray Rodgers and Taylor Showmaker.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Defense.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective Schuenemann.
Morning, sir.
So, I gathered that the reason you were selected to assist the Lee County Sheriff's Office was because of your extensive training and education in crime scene collection. Is that correct, sir?
I don't want to speculate, sir.
Okay, okay. Well, then, let's just kind of go right into it. First, we spoke about the search warrant executed upon Mr. Sievers' condominium. Do you recall that?
Is that the apartment, sir?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall if at the time it was tenant occupied, if it was owner occupied, or if it was vacant?
It appeared to be unoccupied.
Okay. I want to move on to July 15th. You executed a search warrant on a vehicle. Do you recall that?
Which vehicle, sir?
Madam Clerk, can I have 34 A and B? Madam First Witness?
Yes, sir.
Handing you what has previously been admitted as State's Exhibit 34 A and B. Do you recognize those?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you executed a search warrant upon those vehicles, is that correct?
Upon this vehicle,
upon
yes.
that vehicle.
Yes.
What did you recover?
Various items of evidence.
Okay, can you be a little more specific?
Located therein were the presence of a GPS device.
Okay.
I don't recall without looking at the list of evidence that was recovered from.
Do you recall if you took any fiber samples from the upholstery, the seats, the floor, the headliner? Do you recall any of that?
I do not recall. There were 6 different vehicles that were processed during.
Do you recall taking fiber samples from any of the vehicles that were processed?
I don't recall.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take those back. Madam Clerk, can I see the Possibly 5 exhibit. Should be a series of photos. I don't know, it's a series of photos. 55. The interior of. Yes, I'm sorry.
No, that's.
So I'm going to hand you what was already introduced as 35Q. You take a look at that for me.
Yes, sir.
And again, can you describe that photograph?
It is a printed digital image of a captured digital image of a nightstand next to a bed in one of the bedrooms of the cadet residence.
Okay. And at that time, you had a search warrant. You were lawfully upon the residence. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you had the lawful authority to seize physical and tangible items of evidence, correct?
Yes, sir.
Did you seize the knives and the hammers contained there in that picture?
I don't recall, sir.
When you were going about this search or this series of events, were you allowed to use your own independent judgment, or were you pretty much acting within the scope of the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I would say a little bit of both, sir.
Okay. Do you recall if anyone instructed you to collect any of the evidence contained in 35Q?
I don't recall. I was at the direction of Lee County deputies during their investigation.
Go ahead and take that now.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can I have 53, please? Handing you what was 53. I believe that was the Alcatel cell phone. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in addition to the cell phone, I understand you were not present, but a cover to a cell phone, a front and back that you had held up to the jury, was recovered by, I believe it was Corporal or Detective Downs. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
First, were you present with Detective Downs when he recovered the front and the back of that cell phone?
No, sir.
And were you supposed to be supervising the Lee County Sheriff's Office detectives as they were going about their duties, collecting evidence, things like that?
No, sir.
Okay. What was your role then?
To assist them.
Are you aware if the covers collected by Detective Downs fit that cell phone?
I do not know, sir.
Okay. Do you know how old that cell phone is?
I do not.
Do you know how long it was in continuous use?
No, sir.
Okay. And if you don't know, that's fine. Do you know if that particular cell phone had a SIM card in it?
Not that I know of, sir.
Okay, thank you. I noticed that while you were giving your testimony, you were very meticulous about changing out your latex gloves every time you handled a new object or item of evidence. Why is that?
To help reduce the chances of cross-contamination.
Okay, so is it fair to say that, given all of your training, experience, and education, that you tend to be very conscientious and detail-oriented when collecting evidence?
I do my best, sir.
Okay. When you would have collected the jumpsuit provided to you by Detective Downs, do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you would have collected that, would you have used latex gloves when collecting that?
No, sir.
No?
I have a latex allergy, so I would have used nitrile gloves.
Okay, I'm sorry, I did not
That's
know
okay.
that. But would you have used some type of protective gloves so that your biological material would not transfer onto the items of evidence?
Yes, sir.
Okay. When you collected these samples, were you doing any type of analysis, or was it your job just merely to collect, package, and send?
Yes, sir.
So, I kind of asked you a yes or no question. I'll try that again. Is it fair to say that in the course of this investigation, your job was to collect, package, and send?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Ross asked you about some blue gloves found with coveralls. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
Were there any blue gloves found or collected with coveralls to your knowledge?
They were provided by Doe Run as exemplars.
Okay, so the blue gloves were sample gloves, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
But there were no blue gloves then that were found?
Not that I recall.
Okay. What did you collect from the locker that was associated with Jimmy Ray Rodgers?
Which one, sir?
Either, all.
There were 3 lockers. The items located therein were seized.
Okay.
And swabs of the interior and portions of the exterior were also obtained.
You collected the pair of shoes that was 42, Exhibit 42. Madam Clerk? 42 is over here. Oh, don't see that. Yes, sir. Again, can you take that exhibit up, the gloves on, and take that exhibit out for us?
Yes, sir. What you've handed me is the original packaging for item number 310-1. May I stand, sir? I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. 301-108, one pair of black, white, and lime green tennis shoes that were located within the residence of Mr. Rodgers and Miss Showmaker.
Okay. And, sir, can I ask you to step down and maybe give the jury a closer look at those shoes? And does there appear to be any blood or any biological material that would be apparent to the naked eye left on those shoes?
What specific biological sample are you referring to? Sweat, blood?
Let's start with blood. Do you see any evidence of blood on those shoes that would be apparent to the naked eye?
It being a black shoe, I cannot tell.
Okay. Thank you, sir. We're good, thank you.
Yeah, put it back.
Please.
Thank you.
And sir, you collected a backpack as well, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
When you collected the backpack, did you, were you careful to inventory the contents of that backpack?
No, sir.
Were there things in the backpack?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Do you recall what was in the backpack?
No, sir.
And, sir, are you familiar with collecting cell phones, collecting things that could be connected to a cell phone tower or a Wi-Fi network?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And have you ever heard of what's called a Faraday box?
Yes, sir.
When you collected the Alcatel cell phone, did you put that in what's called the Faraday box?
No, sir.
How did you collect the Alcatel cell phone?
The going rate for Faraday bags are $43 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
We do not have the budget for that, so we use aluminum foil, which
Okay.
is, depending on which Dollar Tree, it's going to be $1.
Okay.
We wrap the cell phone, anything with a wireless connection, in aluminum foil because of our budget.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you. I have nothing further.
State.
Yes, Your Honor, thank you. Detective Schuenemann, you were meticulous and kept an evidence list of what you collected during the execution of the various search warrants in which you participated. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you keep such a meticulous list also for 10154 West Briar Drive, which was the residence of Jimmy Ray Rodgers and Taylor Showmaker?
I did my best, ma'am.
And does that evidence list reflect that for evidence number, Missouri evidence number 310-107A, 107B, 107C, items that were taken from that particular nightstand?
It most likely would, ma'am.
If I were to show you a copy of your evidence list, might that refresh your recollection?
Yes, ma'am.
I just showed you a copy of your evidence list that was prepared by you. Does that reflect that you collected items that were contained on the end table beside the bed?
Yes, ma'am.
And did that include a couple of hammers?
Please bear with me, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. 3 hammers.
Thank you. Did you, no, I have no further questions. Thank you very much.
Defense.
No recross.
Is this witness to be retained or released?
Released, Your Honor.
Released, Your Honor.
You're free to go. Thank you, Detective.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next witness.
State calls Jeffrey Conway. Sorry, Your Honor.
It's okay.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome back to Florida.
Thank you.
Can you please state your full name for the record?
Jeffrey Blaine Conway,
And can you spell your last name?
Conway,
And where are you from, sir?
Potosi, Missouri.
And I probably should ask you to spell Potosi.
Certainly. Potosi.
Okay. And where do you work, sir?
I work for the Doe Run Company.
And were you working for the Doe Run Company back in June of 2015, sir?
No, sir.
Were you working at the Doe Run facility back in June of 2015, sir?
Yes, sir, I was.
So how was it that you worked for the Doe Run facility now, but in 2015 you were working at the Doe Run facility? Can you explain that to the jury?
Certainly. In 2015, I actually worked for a company called JV Contracting. We were a contracting company that supplied laborers to the Doe Run Company.
And what do they do with the Doe Run company?
They are the plant I worked at was a battery recycling plant.
And when you say battery recycling, is that like they recycle Energizer batteries and Duracell batteries?
No, sir. They recycle larger batteries, car batteries, automotive batteries, train batteries, industrial-sized batteries.
And are these batteries known to contain toxic materials?
Yes, sir, they are.
What are some of the materials that are contained in some of these batteries that you recycle?
The lead and the acid that are in the batteries are the two main sources.
And as a result of the materials contained within these batteries that are recycled at Doe Run, does Doe Run employ any kind of procedures to avoid these toxic chemicals from coming into contact with workers or from those toxic chemicals getting out of the facility?
Yes, sir, they do.
What are some of those procedures?
Doe Run provides protective equipment. We call it PPE, personal protective equipment. They supply coveralls, rubber latex gloves, leather gloves, and hard hats and full face respirators.
And a full face, what's a full face respirator do?
It actually covers your entire face. It has gas and small particle filters on it that filter the air you breathe.
And I'm going to show you what's been previously entered as State's Exhibit number 92. Who's that in State's Exhibit number 92?
That is Jimmy Rodgers.
And how do you know Jimmy Rodgers?
At the time in 2015 when I worked for JB Contracting, I was a supervisor that ran the laboring crews at Doe Run, and Jimmy Rodgers worked for me there.
And what kind of work was Mr. Rodgers doing at the Doe Run facility?
He was a laborer that helped do cleanup work on the side of the plant that recycled the batteries.
And since he was a laborer doing cleanup work on the recycling part of the plant, Was Mr. Rodgers one of the employees at Doe Run who comes into contact with the toxic materials you described earlier?
Yes, he was.
And is there any kind of training that you give the employees? You mentioned the PPE, the personal protective equipment. Does Doe Run or JV Contracting give the employees any training on how to avoid contaminating themselves with the toxic equipment?
Yes, sir, there
or
is.
Toxic materials.
Yes, sir.
And what kind of training did Mr. Rodgers get?
There is training both from JB and from the Doe Run Company. Mostly the Doe Run provides the training, but it's training that teaches you about bloodborne pathogens, air contaminants, and how to avoid being contaminated from anything in the plant that may affect you.
And are the employees required to complete this training prior to being allowed to work in the plant?
Yes, sir, they are.
Was Mr. Rodgers required to complete that training?
Yes, he was.
Was there an individual working at the plant named Curtis Wayne Wright?
No, sir.
So let's talk about the PPE, the personal protective equipment. Are there specific types of suits that the employees wear while they're working in the plant?
Yes, there are.
And what kind of suits are those?
There are actually two types of jumpsuits that Doe Run provides. One jumpsuit or coveralls is an acid resistant, which is worn on the side of the plant where they recycle the batteries. There's also a type of coveralls that's flame resistant. Those are worn on the refinery side of the plant.
And are these suits required to be worn by employees?
Yes, sir, they are.
How do they get the suits?
Doe Run issues the suits as you come into or getting ready to go into the plant. There is a area where you can get clean uniforms to put on.
And how many, is there a daily allotment or a daily quota of suits that an employee can get?
No, sir.
Why not?
Your change anytime you are contaminated or dirty or feel like that you're dirty enough that you need to change into a clean pair of coveralls. It's recommended that you do so.
So if I was working in the plant and I got some battery acid on my sleeve, it's a good idea to change that suit
You bet.
immediately?
Immediately, yes.
What happens to the suits after the employees change out of them?
They are placed in a special bin for dirty coveralls.
And then are the suits discarded, burned, cleaned?
They are sent out to an outside contractor to be cleaned, sterilized, and sent back to the plant to be used again.
Now, is the only thing that the employees of Doe Run do, they just put the blue suits on and they're safe from chemicals, or are there specific training in how to put the suits on?
There is training on how to use the suits, how to properly use your respirators. The respirators are fit tested, it's called, to ensure that there's no leakage of air coming into the respirator.
Specifically with regards to the blue suits, is there any other equipment in addition to the respirator that the employees would wear with the blue suits?
Latex gloves are worn underneath leather gloves. On occasion, some people will use duct tape to duct tape the sleeves and the pants legs of the uniforms down tight to make sure no contaminants actually go up inside the coveralls.
Now, is the duct taping of the pants legs and sleeves part of the training?
No, sir. That's something you learn from experience when you're out in the plant.
Well, that's a good way to keep if there was an acid spill of some kind, the duct tape might keep the acid from going up my sleeve.
That's correct, yes.
I'm going to show you what's been previously entered as State's Exhibit number 44. I'll just open it up. All right, so within State's Exhibit number 44, first of all, did law enforcement come to the Doe Run facility regarding an investigation of Jimmy Rodgers?
Yes, sir, they did.
And during that investigation, did you provide them with some sample clean blue suits?
Yes, sir, I did with permission of the Doe Run Company.
And I'm showing you one of the suits from within exhibit number 44. I'm holding it up so you can see. Is this one of the suits that you provided?
Yes, it is.
Now, how can you tell if a suit is acid resistant or flame resistant?
By the tags that are on the inside, there's orange tag for acid resistant and a white tag on it for flame resistant.
I'm gonna get a little closer to you here and show you the tags on the inside. Are these the tags that tell you whether it's acid resistant or flame resistant?
Yes, you can tell by the color of the tag.
And is this specific suit acid resistant or flame resistant?
That suit would be flame resistant.
Now, it's not flame proof.
No, sir.
Okay. Now I'll show you the other suit in 44. So now I'm holding up the second suit from within 44. And can you tell me whether this suit, try not to trip on it, is acid resistant or flame resistant?
That would be acid resistant.
And that's because it has a little orange tag on here?
Correct.
And your employees, you said on the recycling side were the acid resistant, and on the refinery side they were the flame resistant suits?
Yes, sir.
Now, did you also provide law enforcement with gloves?
Yes, sir, I did.
And that was for the purpose of showing them what the, thank you, Ms. Bond. Showing the law enforcement what the employees in Doe Run wear on a daily basis?
Yes, it was.
Okay, so, I have a box here of gloves. Is this the box of gloves that you gave the law enforcement?
Yes, sir, it is.
And I'll pull one out here. These are thick rubber blue gloves.
Yes.
And these are the kind of gloves that the employees wear on the recycling side of the plant.
Yes, sir.
And you said sometimes they wear them under leather gloves.
Yes, sir, it is recommended you wear them under your leather gloves.
So I have two pairs of thick gloves from within Exhibit 44. Are these the gloves that you're referring to?
Yes, sir, they are.
And Your Honor, I don't know that the jury had a chance to examine these the first time. May I hand these to the jury so they can review these gloves as well?
Yes, sir.
Bless you, bless you. Thank you. Now, when you put these, thank you. When the employees use the blue gloves along with the blue suits, do they put the gloves on and then tape the sleeves over the gloves, or do they put the gloves over the sleeves and tape the gloves over the sleeves?
Most people will put the gloves over the sleeves and then actually tape the gloves to the sleeves.
Okay. Now, while you were supervising Mr. Rodgers at the Doe Run facility, did he ever inform you that he was taking a trip out of town?
Yes, sir, he did.
Where did he tell you he was going and for what purpose?
Objection, hearsay, Your Honor?
Overruled.
He told me that he was going to Florida to visit his brother who had recently graduated law school, and they were going to celebrate the fact that he had graduated law school.
And at that point, did you even know he had a brother?
No, sir, I did not.
And at some point during that, was that the weekend of, the weekend that would have been the June 28th, the Sunday, the weekend that would have included Sunday, June 28th?
Yes, sir, that's the weekend he told me he would be out of town and unavailable.
Now, at some point, did you also try to make contact with Mr. Rodgers about his work schedule?
Yes, sir, I did on that Sunday evening.
And how did you contact him?
I believe I tried to call him, it didn't go through, so I had sent him a text, which is normally how I conversed with those guys anyway.
And did he respond?
Yes, sir, he responded to the text message I sent.
And where did he tell you he was when he responded?
Objection, hearsay?
Verbal act.
He said that he could not work the following Monday because he was in Florida.
All right, let me show you, before I show it to you. When the members of law enforcement came to Doe Run conducting the investigation into Mr. Rodgers, did you discuss with them the fact that you and Mr. Rodgers had this text message conversation?
Yes, sir, I did.
Did you show them your phone containing the conversation as well as the contact with Mr. Rodgers?
Yes, sir, it was a company phone I had, conducted all my company business on that phone.
I'm going to show you what's been previously identified or marked as 49, State's Exhibit 49A, B, and C. And ask if you recognize 49A, B, and C, sir.
Yes, sir, I do. Those were photographs of the phone and the contact and messages from Jimmy Rodgers.
And are those true and accurate representations of the phone that were taken by law enforcement?
Yes, sir.
Around this time, the state would admit 49A, B, and C.
May we approach, Your Honor? Yes, sir.
Oh, let me give this back to you. All right, Mr. Conway, so. Oh, sorry. Did the phone number that Mr. Rodgers was contacting you from, was that a number that he'd given you?
Yes, it was.
And was that a number that you had been able to reach him on before?
Yes, several times.
When you attempted to contact Mr. Rodgers, were you contacting him on the number that you'd spoken to him before that he had previously provided you?
Yes.
And is that number depicted in State's Exhibit 49A?
Yes, it is.
What's the phone number?
The phone number is 573-864-1179.
And that's the number that you had been contacting Mr. Rodgers on?
Yes.
Around at this time, the state would admit 49A through B, 49A through C.
No objection.
Show them admitted.
Publish?
You may.
All right, for the record, I'm publishing 49A. Now I'm publishing 49B. And for 49B, I think there's a little green laser pointer up there. A little green laser pointer sitting
Yes,
up
sir.
there. Can you show the jury the messages that you sent to Mr. Rodgers?
This message at the top I sent to Mr. Rodgers informing him that I would not need him the following Monday at Doe Run, but we needed an extra laborer to work with the roofing crew. This was the gentleman on the roofing crew that he was to meet the Monday morning to work with that crew. This is the text that Jimmy had sent me back saying I'm in Florida still.
Okay, so the text that says, I'm in FL still, is the response that you received?
That's correct.
Okay. This is just season for dropping things. Give me a chance, I'll drop something else. Thank you. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the Doe Run facility. Now, you said earlier that there's a plant where the employees work with the hazardous materials,
That's correct, yes.
and they put on the suits and they go out and work in the plant. Now, when they're done working and they have to come back in and their suits are contaminated, where do they go?
They are placed into a special bin for the dirty uniforms or dirty coveralls.
Where do the employees go?
The employees go to the contractor's locker room. That locker room is actually divided into two parts. One is for the dirty side where you keep all contaminated materials that's been out in the plant. And then you actually have a clean side, which is where you keep your clean clothes and the clothes you brought in to wear home.
Okay, so talk to me about how that works. If an employee comes to work in the morning, they show up and they're wearing their street clothes, whatever it is they went to work in. Will they go in on the clean side or will they go in on the dirty side?
You enter in through the clean side.
And then on the clean side, is that where you put on your clean suit
Yes, it
and
is.
the respirator and all that?
Respirator is usually you pick up a clean respirator after you get down from the locker room right before you go out into the plant. You will pick up a clean respirator at that point.
Okay. And so you go into the clean side, you put on your clean suit, you put on your other PPE, and then you go to work.
Correct.
And then when you're done working, you come back in. Do you go back to the clean side where you came in the morning, or do you go to the dirty side?
When you come back in from the plant, you go to the dirty side.
Okay. And what happens when you go into the dirty side?
That's where you remove your hard hat, your boots, dirty coveralls, anything that you've worn out into the plant is removed on that side.
Okay. And then now, if you're on the dirty side, and the clothes that you wore to work that morning are on the clean side, how do you get over to the clean side so you can get dressed to go back to work?
Before you go to the clean side, you have to shower. It is a federal law, I believe, that you have to shower because it is a lead recycling plant, which is contaminant. So you would shower first. After you've showered and cleaned, then you go to the clean side and put on your clean clothes again.
And are the employees that at Doe Run that specifically that are exposed to lead, are they required to undergo any regular testing for lead exposure?
Yes, sir. Once a month, you have to give a blood draw, and that's what that blood draw is for, is to check your lead levels in your blood.
Okay. I'll show you a couple of the photos here. When law enforcement came to Doe Run, did you assist them in locating Mr. Rodgers's, however you say the plural, Mr. Rodgers' locker?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then once you assisted them in locating the locker, what did you do to the locker?
When law enforcement requested so, I had placed gray duct tape over the lockers, and I had initialed it and date and time, so we can make sure nobody else had been in that locker.
I'm showing you what's been previously entered as 36N, Nancy. And can you tell me whether these blue lockers in 36N are clean side or dirty side?
That would be the dirty side.
And so this is where the employees would put all their dirty equipment, any contaminated equipment when they come in from the plant.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay. to show you 36E. Can you tell me what's in 36E?
That is a picture of the clean side part of the locker room.
Okay, so this is where, if I was coming to work at Doe Run, I would come to work here and take off my clean street clothes.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
36F. Are those clean side or dirty side lockers there?
Those would be clean side lockers.
And then I see there's some gray duct tape on the top, at the top of the lockers. Is that the duct tape that you applied to the lockers?
Yes, sir, it is.
And these are the initials that you made on the lockers?
Yes, sir.
JC stands for Jeffrey Conway.
Yes, sir, it does.
And then 36M, Mike, 36 Mike. What's that?
That is a picture of recycled or used boots that are on the dirty side of the locker room.
Okay, well, now what happens to all these dirty boots?
Some of them are cleaned up and can be reused if they're in good enough shape. The ones that are in bad shape or are highly contaminated, they are disposed of.
What is that? There's some blue stuff on the bottom of some of these boots. What is that blue stuff on the bottom of the boots there?
Those are blue booties that are at Doe Run. When you come in from the plant, the first thing you do when you step inside the change house is you have to put those booties over your dirty boots, and that's just in an effort to try to keep the contamination down as much as possible.
And again, this contamination training is something all the employees go through.
Yes, sir.
You talked earlier that the employees, when they come from working in the plant, that they're required to shower
Yes.
before they go back to the clean side. Is this what the shower area looks like in 36L?
This is actually when you first come up to the dirty side of the locker room. That is an area where you can pre-wash, wash your hands, arms, and face before you actually go to the showers. Or if you're not super dirty when you come in to go to break, you can take off your dirty coveralls and dirty things and wash up there before you put on a clean pair of coveralls and go to break.
How do lunch breaks work? If you're out working in the plant and you got toxic lead or toxic acid on your suit and you want to eat, how do the employees eat when they're contaminated?
You first come in the plant, you put on a pair of your blue booties, you receive a clean pair of coveralls, which are issued right there when you first come back in from the plant. You would actually go upstairs, remove all your contaminated clothing, hard hat, respirators. All that is placed in your dirty side locker. Your dirty coveralls would be placed in that special bin for the dirty coveralls. At that time, you would want to wash up. We always recommend you at least wash from your elbows down and your face. If you're extremely dirty or to the point you feel like it is recommended you shower first, then you place on your clean coveralls, or you could also place on your clean street clothes if you so desire before you're allowed to go into the break room. Nothing that's been out in the plant can go into the break room.
I'm guessing because if there's food being eaten in the break room and people are bringing contaminants into the break room, then people could eat contaminants.
That's correct.
Okay, I've got 36J on the screen here. Is that a dirty side area there?
Yes, sir, it is.
And in the left-hand side of the picture where I'm pointing with my pen, are those the bins that you mentioned where the employees put their soiled suits?
Yes, sir, they are.
And showing you 36K, is that one of those close-up bins there?
Yes, it is.
Now these blue suits, are they property of the employees? Do the employees have to pay for them to be able to use them?
No, sir, they do not.
They're property of the Doe Run facility?
Yes.
Are employees allowed sometimes to take a suit out of the plant with them?
No, sir.
Do they take suits out of the plant with them sometimes?
Yes, sir, I'm sure it happens.
Have you ever found one of your suits on the side of the road?
No, sir.
Is there a major road that runs towards the plant, specifically from Cadet?
Yes, sir.
What road is that?
Highway 47 runs that way out of Cadet.
That Highway 47 that runs between the plant and Cadet, what kind of area of Missouri is that plant located in?
It's a rural area of Missouri.
Okay, and by rural, does that mean that you wouldn't see a lot of tall buildings around there?
No, sir, absolutely not. It's more of a wooded area.
A lot of trees?
Yes, definitely.
And that text message that that you showed us earlier, there's a message, there's a reference to somebody named Tyler.
Yes, sir.
Who's that?
That's Tyler Juliet. He's the owner of JB Contracting.
So Tyler is your boss?
Yes,
or was
sir.
your boss?
Was my boss, yes, sir.
And therefore was also Mr. Rodgers' boss as well?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you. I return these to Madam Clerk. Thank you. Your Honor, we tender the witness.
Defense.
No questions, Your Honor.
Is this witness to be released or retained?
It's free to go, Your Honor.
Released, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir. You're free to go.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Next witness.
State calls John Long. Might I approach the clerk, Your Honor?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, John Long, L-O-N-G.
And how are you employed?
I am employed with the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
And what is your rank in the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I am a captain.
How long have you been employed at the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
18 years.
And as a captain, do you oversee a particular division or area of the Lee County Sheriff's Office?
I do.
And what is that? Where is that?
I am in charge or the commander of the forensic division.
Now, are you also a sworn law enforcement officer as a captain?
I am.
I want to direct your attention back to 2015. I know, given how long you've been with the Lee County Sheriff's Office, you were certainly working then. But what was your assignment then, and what was your rank then?
I was a lieutenant in 2015. I was then the assistant commander of the forensic division.
And what does an assistant commander, or a commander, but what does an assistant commander do at the forensic division?
I was the second in command, overseeing the 5 units that are in the forensic division, and most of our job functions as the supervisors was a lot of the paperwork.
Would you have occasion to go to various scenes or when you had forensic individuals that were processing a scene?
Yes.
I want to direct your attention to the end of June, beginning of July 2015. Did you have an occasion to go to the residence on Jarvis Road where the body of Teresa Sievers had been found?
Yes.
When did you go to that residence?
On June 30th at approximately 12:30 in the afternoon, I stopped by that location on Jarvis Road to check with the crime scene personnel there to see if they needed anything brought to them or anything like that.
And did you return on July 1st?
Yes, I went back on July 1st at about 3 p.m., and the same thing, just making sure that they didn't need anything.
While you were there, did you collect any evidence?
I did not.
Now, starting with June 30th, did you enter into the residence when you arrived on June 30th of 2015?
Yes, on June 30th, I did a quick walkthrough.
When you do a walkthrough, even if it's a quick walkthrough, do you put on any protective items?
Yes, with major crimes scenes, there is usually a box of Tyvek boots, shoe coverings that are at the door, along with several boxes of gloves. And we make sure that anybody goes in puts on the gloves as well as the shoe coverings.
And you did that as well?
Yes, I did.
After those couple of visits during that period, were you back at the scene, the crime scene on Jarvis Road after July 1st, before, say, July 13th in that area, or were you off with other responsibilities?
I was off with other responsibilities.
During the month of July, did you have occasion to attempt to locate any video that might have some relevance to the investigation of the homicide of Teresa Sievers?
Yes.
Would you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where you attempted to collect video and what you collected?
I concentrated on Bonita Beach Road in the areas between I-75 and Imperial Parkway.
And were you able to obtain any videos from that area, those areas?
I did obtain some video, yes.
Did you obtain a video from the McDonald's?
Yes.
Is that close to the Bonita Beach Road exit?
Yes, it is.
Did you obtain a video from the mobile 7-Eleven near there?
Yes.
How about the Marathon 7-Eleven?
Yes.
The CVS Pharmacy near there?
Yes.
And the Waffle House?
That's correct, yes.
What was the purpose in collecting or trying to collect videos in that general area?
That was the roadway, Imperial Parkway to I-75 would be the logical route if a person was traveling for any span of distance to go back to I-75.
And would that be the closest I-75 entrance or exit to the Jarvis Road residence if someone were taking 75?
Yes.
Did you also end up later collecting some video in August or trying to collect video in August from the Docks Beach House near Bonita Beach?
Yes.
What led you later to come back in August and try and collect video from the Docks Beach House?
After the GPS was downloaded, it was discovered that the GPS hit in that area. So I went back to that area to see if there was any video still available for the Access 1 beach area, and Docks Beach House is right there at Access 1.
And was there any video available?
There was not.
Did you also end up going to rest area off of Daniels to see if there was any video?
I went to the Florida Highway Patrol Department of Transportation station there at the Daniels rest area and asked them if they had any video there. They told me no, they don't have videos of the rest area, but they have video of the actual station itself, so I requested that to give to Major Crimes.
And staying with right now video or that type of material, did you on July 22nd contact FHP again regarding license plate readers?
Yes.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury why you made that request and what you found out.
On the 22nd, that whole day was spent making phone calls. A lot of that wound up being to Tallahassee. I spoke to the Florida Highway Patrol, Department of Transportation, as well as the Department of Agriculture, and asked if any license plate readers and or video surveillance on the I-75 corridor along with the rest areas was available.
And what did you learn? Was it available?
I learned to my surprise that that's all closed circuit TV. It's just monitored for the flow of traffic. It's not being recorded.
Going back to July 14th, did there come a time when you flew out to Phoenix, Arizona as part of the investigation in this case?
Yes.
And why did you fly out to Phoenix, Arizona?
I was assigned to fly out to Phoenix, Arizona to take custody of a Hyundai Elantra that was in Phoenix, and myself and crime scene tech Rose transported that vehicle back.
Was her name then Jump, last name then Jump?
Yes.
And when you arrived in Phoenix, where did you go?
We arrived in Phoenix, and we arrived late in Phoenix on the 14th. The 15th, we went to the Phoenix Police Department, where crime scene tech Rose wound up photographing and processing the outside of the vehicle. And then on the 16th in the morning, we wound up renting a Ryder truck along with a travel trailer and towed that vehicle back to Fort Myers.
Let's talk about how the vehicle got onto the trailer that you rented.
Yes.
How did the vehicle get from where it was with the Phoenix police onto the back of the trailer?
I backed it onto the trailer.
Did you take any precautionary measures before you got into the vehicle to back it onto the trailer?
I did.
Tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what measures you took.
Okay, first I put on sterile latex gloves. Then I put on a mask, a dust mask, and then I put on a Tyvek suit, which covered my body from head to toe, and then glasses, and then entered the vehicle.
What is a Tyvek suit?
Tyvek suit is it's a white plastic material it's kind of like a heavy trash bag.
And when you got out of the car, having loaded it onto the trailer, was the car locked or secured?
The car was locked.
And who got the key?
I handed the keys to crime scene tech Jump, or Rose.
Did you put any covering on the car?
We did. When we rented the truck and the trailer, we also went to an auto parts store and purchased a car cover for that vehicle and covered the car before transport.
Now, about what time did you end up leaving Phoenix on the morning of the 16th?
Approximately 11 o'clock in the morning.
And once you left Phoenix, where was your next? You started to drive. Where was your next stop?
We stopped in Pesos County, Texas,
And do you recall about what time you arrived in Pesos County?
about 3 o'clock in the morning.
Now, that's a long drive. Is there a reason that you drove that long a period of time?
Yes, we want to get that car back here as soon as possible.
What did you do with the car when you got to Pesos? Was it placed in a secure area?
Yes, we made arrangements on the way with the Pesos County Sheriff's Office, and as soon as we got there, we lodged that vehicle in their impound facility.
And did it remain locked, secured, and covered?
Yes.
And did it remain on the trailer?
Yes, it did.
The next morning, where did you head?
We continued I-10 eastbound, heading back towards Fort Myers, and we wound up stopping in Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office right outside of New Orleans.
And so you'd left at about, you left in the morning of the 17th. When did you arrive? Was it the 18th by the time you arrived in the
Yes, it was.
parish?
Yes, it was. I want to say it was around 1:30 in the morning.
And what did you do there? to
We
secure
also
the-
we did the same thing we did in Texas. We dropped it with the Tammany Parish Sheriff's Office.
And then the next morning, did you come back and retrieve the car again?
Yes, we did.
When you left it, was it locked and was the cover on it?
Yes, it was.
And when you came back the next morning, where did you now head?
We same I-10 west to Florida, and drove to the Forensic Center in Fort Myers.
So your next stop was the Forensic Center here in Lee County in Fort Myers.
Yes.
And did you arrive there the same day, or was it after midnight?
It was after midnight.
I want to show you what has been introduced in evidence as State's Exhibits 46A and B. Well, actually, I'll show you from here because it's in evidence. And ask if this is the car that you picked up in Now it's, Mr. Hunter has fixed it. Is this the car that you picked up in Phoenix and transported to Lee County?
Yes.
We'll also show you a side picture of it. Now, did you, when you went to Phoenix, did you record the VIN number of the car?
I did.
And what is the VIN number?
The vehicle identification number is a 17 character number, which is specific to that car.
I want to show you what's been marked for identification as 47C and ask you if that is a photograph of the VIN number of that car.
Yes, it is.
And that's the VIN number for this particular car that was transported from Phoenix to the Lee County Sheriff's Office.
Yes, it is.
Move to introduce 47C.
No objection.
Show it admitted.
And this is the VIN number to which you...
Yes.
Now, when you got to Lee County, how did the car get off of the trailer?
Same process that I put it on the trailer.
So, and were you the person who took it off the trailer?
I was.
Did you use a Tyvek suit with all the gear that you just talked about a few minutes ago? Did you use that same type of gear to take it off the trailer?
I did the same gear in the same process.
And you drove it off the trailer. What did you then do with it?
I parked it in the processing bay, which you saw on the picture. That's where I put it.
And that's a Lee County Sheriff's Office processing bay?
Correct.
And that's a secure area?
Yes, it is.
I tend to the witness, Your Honor.
Defense.
No questions, Your Honor.
This witness to be retained or released.
Released, Your Honor.
Released, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Free to go.
Okay, thank you.
And I don't know if our next witness is a short witness or not, but would you like us to call?
Have both sides approach for a moment. Ready. Given the possible length of the next witness, we'll just go ahead and break for lunch at this time. I'm going to instruct you not to talk about the case among yourselves with anybody else or look up any of the people or places involved, and we'll see everybody back at 1:15. See you then. Please be seated. How many more do you have lined up for today, roughly?
We had lined up 10 witnesses for today, Your Honor, so
Okay,
I let my math kind of go.
that's all right.
So,
Anything else from the state before we break for lunch?
thank you, Your Honor.
From the defense?
Nothing from defense, Your Honor.
See everybody at 1:15.